A kingdom view is what it's all about. We wanna know, are you living kingdom? A kingdom view is what it's all about. We wanna know, are you living kingdom? Kingdom view.
Well, great day, everybody, and thank you for watching Kingdom Living Today with Michelle Harden. I'm so excited that you are tracking and tracing me through all these amazing interviews that we've been doing, regarding the Real International Film Festival. Right now, Kingdom Living Today, that's exactly what we've been talking about, is you telling your story and then bringing you those experts that are in the industry that can help you become a better storyteller. And I'm telling you today, my guest is like none other. She is the master storyteller. And I want to tell you just a little bit about her before I actually bring her on the screen. Her name, she has like this signature, like this basically name I see in lights, and it is Susan Luke Evans. And she is a CSP and Global Speaking Fellow. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She is a leadership consultant and communication expert. She is among 8% of Canadian speakers with the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers to hold their highest earned designation, the Certified Speaking Professionals, which is CSP, and among less than 1% within the Global Speakers Federation to hold Global Speaking Fellow designations. Now, already, we need to listen to everything she's going to say to help us today. Her practice centers on assisting leaders who want to elevate their messages to create flexible, engage, and in the process, maximize their return on investment, that ROI, right? She believes that everyone should live a great story to build their legacy. Now, that's different than what we've ever heard. Normally is building a story to tell people about yourself, but no, it's building a story to build your legacy. Help me welcome none other than Susan Luke Evans. And the drum rolls are rolling. They're rolling. Now she's on the screen with me. Now you see why I do pre-recording. Hello, Susan. How are you doing today?
I'm super. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. It is so great to finally see you again and to see your beautiful face and to see you did something different with your hair.
It's new.
You're doing all kind of things during COVID. You seem bored to me right now. So tell us a little bit, my listening audience, tell them who Susan Luke Evans is. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I have been in my own business for a little over 30 years. And before that, I was a CEO of a small startup company in the financial services sector. And I started my professional career as a teacher in Native American villages in Alaska. No
Wow.
TV, no telephone, mostly no running water, and especially during the winter months. And it was awfully cold and awfully dark for awfully long. So I moved to Honolulu because I deserved it. And that's where I was the CEO of the company. And then we merged into a larger company. And so I decided, well, I've learned how to be a CEO now. So,
Right.
Well, at least I thought I had. And I will start my own business. So that was a good move for me, and probably a good move for the company that I left. But what it did for me, as my business has evolved and I have grown in what I can do and how I can help, is that it gave me experience on both sides of the desk.
Wow.
And so when I work with leaders, and it doesn't matter what level, any level, from the C-suite all the way down to the plant floor supervisor, I have an appreciation for what it takes to do what they do.
Sure.
And I have not only my own experience, but now after all these years of consulting and coaching and speaking with other leaders in other positions and in a variety of industries, I bring that to the table as well. My passion, my absolute passion, is storytelling.
Yeah.
And I learned that from my mother, who told stories on the radio
Yeah.
before I was born. And so before I was even thought about, I think, but that's a different conversation. And so she and my dad was a minister, and he used stories. So, you know, I was born talking and telling stories, or so they say, and they haven't been able to shut me up since.
That is awesome. So, Susan, you mentioned Alaska, Honolulu. How did you end up in Canada? How did you end up there?
I married the love of my life, a Canadian who wasn't moving anywhere, although he was also a speaker and traveled the world and had lots of clients. We had known each other for years, and after life happened in both of our lives, we reconnected. And so I moved to Canada, and we had 12 wonderful years together before he passed away 6 years ago. But so I decided to stay. And so I have dual citizenship with the U.S., and my son and his family live in Boston area, not in Boston proper. So it's about an hour's flight to, you know, when we can fly and when we can cross the border and all those things. So at the moment, I'm watching my 2 adorable grandchildren grow up on FaceTime. But anyway,
technology is wonderful.
Yeah. So that's how I got here, and that's how I stayed. And I'm privileged to live here. It's a lovely country, and the people are amazing, and I have lots of friends here. And since I'd moved around so much in the past, I guess I have gypsy blood or something. But anyway, I just decided that I really didn't have a hometown to go back to, and I knew as many people here as I would know anywhere, and probably more so because I'd been here for 15 years. And so I just stayed, and I'm quite happy to be here.
Yeah, you're not going anywhere. We're going to have to come visit you because you're not going anywhere. You know, every time I talk to you, which have been just a few occasions, you know, there's just this relaxation. Like right now, I have completely forgotten about my audience. I am totally all on you, because not only are you, you know, just a great Humanitarian, if that's the word, but your storytelling is engaging, and you just make me feel like I want to get in a chair and just, I'm waiting on I started drinking coffee just a few days ago. You know, I've never drunk coffee, but these hours I'm having to spend up, I'm having to get a little caffeine fix. So I was waiting on my little cup of coffee that my husband was supposed to be bringing me. But I'm just sitting here like relaxed, listening to you. I'm ready to dive in now to storytelling. You know, where did you find your passion? I know you talked about your father being a pastor, but how did you know, I guess this is the question, that you were supposed to begin this storytelling journey?
Well, it in fits and starts, I guess. You know, to me, because of the way I grew up and how my dad did his sermons, and how my mom even just talked to us, and she did a lot of stuff in the church with the women and so forth. Sure. And so I got to observe both of them masters in totally different ways. And that was normal to me. And so when I started teaching school, that was a natural way for me to try to connect with the kids at whatever age I happened to teach. And over the years, I taught everything from kindergarten all the way up through university level. So, well, you know, some of those in Alaska were like a whole bunch at one time, all the grades. But anyway, and so it never occurred to me that this was a passion at that point, because it was just normal. Yeah. And then after I started my business, I had the delightful experience of working with a chemical plant in the southern part of the US. And I went there for a week every month for several, probably a couple of years, to work with their various levels of their leaders. And so they had a new plant manager who was from Western Australia. And the reason he was there was because the plant needed help and was in a position where they needed a turnaround guy. And he had done that in a previous plant in Western Australia. So he was good there, so he must be able to do it here. Well, of course, the difference was that even though they were all speaking English, they didn't speak the same language because, you know, in the South, they talk pretty slow. And it's kind of like smooth whiskey, I'm told. But anyway, and the people from Western Australia talk much faster, much softer.
Okay.
And they have a lot of colloquialisms that, you know, weren't familiar. So he was good at his job, but nobody understood him. So the HR people came to me and said, could you teach our plant manager how to tell a story?
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, I've never done that before. And they said, you use stories every time you're here. Just do it. And so I said, okay. And I stumbled around in my brain trying to figure out what was going to be the best way. And then they decided that they didn't want me to just single him out because they didn't want him to think he was, you know, awful. And so I did the entire executive committee. Wow. And we had a little workshop. And basically what I did was I told him a story about when my son was 3 years old. It had nothing to do with work. It had nothing to do with chemical plants or anything else. And they loved it. And so then we debriefed it and took it apart and talked about story structure and why it was important and all those kinds of things. And then I went around the room and I said, okay, here's the thing. I need each of you to tell me one specific thing that you need to communicate to your team this week. And I said, I don't even have to understand it. You know, that's not the point. I said, but it can't be general. It must be specific. You can't say teamwork is good. Yeah. But I need a sentence. So we went around. It was you know, in a U-shaped thing, and there were mostly men in the room, and they were kind of, you know, okay. And so they were used to me by then because I was part of the woodwork, I think, but I had my own hard hat, my own steel-toed boots and all that. And so anyway, they all did that. And then I said, okay, now it's your turn. You've got 10 minutes to come up with a story about anything, as long as it communicates that specific thing that you want to communicate. Well, I could have sold tickets. I mean, they were amazing. Wow. Once they got started. And so then they were so impressed that they said, you got to do this for, you know, all the different management levels. So we did it and we did it and we did it. And in the book that is coming out next month, there are a whole bunch of different examples, and many of them come from that particular experience that I had over time. And I just thought, well, gosh, you know, if they think I'm really this good at telling stories, then maybe I should capitalize on that a little bit. Right. So I've done that with other organizations, and I do one-on-one coaching sessions with people who want to either create and or enhance, and then learn how to deliver a story well. And that's sort of my pet peeve, is that we all have stories. Yes. And we, you know, whether they're a sentence long or go on and on and on, but we don't all tell them well. Yes. And if you don't tell it well, then nobody gets the point, because it gets lost in all these things. And for example, I have coached some speakers who want, you know, new stories, and sometimes they send me a video, and I have to look at it multiple times because it is so long and so many details that aren't really relevant to the story that it takes me a while to figure out what they're trying to say.
Yeah, what are they talking about?
So I can work with them appropriately. And I've had people go from 12 well, I've had people go from 12 and 15-minute stories
Sure.
to 3 minutes because all they did was, I call them exit ramps. They go off here, you know, and so I'm going there as the listener.
Yeah.
And by the time I get back, I'm lost because they've gone off someplace else again. And none of it, well, that's a little harsh, but most of it
Give us a little credit, Susan. Give us a little credit.
You know, let me tell you how I really feel. But none of it really is germane to the story.
Right.
And so it's interesting to see how they accept that and how they learn from that. And I mean, I'm not the only person that does that. There's lots of good storytellers in the world.
Sure.
But I decided that when I was going to start really coaching, that I was going to focus just on that. I don't care how you stand. I don't care how you know, do your hands. That's not my bag.
Yeah.
My bag is let's tell a story well.
You know, me and Lauren Kelton, somebody you know, yes, had a great conversation about that. And we were talking about the building blocks of telling a story. And of course, you know, that's one of his specialties, but you're absolutely right. You know, as far as telling your story, people have great stories to tell. And sometimes, you know, the audience gets lost because they can't really connect with them. So I know you're going to do, you know, a lot of this in engaging at the Real International Film Festival.
So excited.
Before we get to that, I want you to talk about the return of influence, this new book you have, and how that fits into us telling our story.
Well, the return on influence, which of course is a play on ROI, which people normally associate with return on investment, is about how to communicate more appropriately.
Yes.
And it's, you know, there's been lots of books written about storytelling to do this or storytelling to do that. And they're not bad books. They're not wrong. I've got most of them on my shelf, and I have learned a great deal from them. But there hasn't been very much written about how we influence others through the way that we communicate.
Wow.
And so what I've done is I've developed or created a model. I call it the influence pyramid.
Yes.
And there's 5 levels.
Okay.
So it goes from compliance to participation to buy-in to leadership, and finally visionary. Yeah. So there's, you know, and I could give you probably more information than you need or want at this point, but about those different levels and how people need to be communicated with and that sort of thing. But the real point of that is that between the bottom 3, compliance, participation, and buy-in, and the top 2, leadership and visionary, I think there's a mission critical line, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's when you cross that mission critical line that you start to influence others for them to influence others. And your message resonates more fully with everybody. Now, in every team, you're going to probably have every level on that pyramid. But when you're speaking to the whole team, you can't just, you know, so to cross the invisible mission critical line, what you need to do is reveal something about your own personal experience, which is, ta-da, part of your story. And that way, I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can do, but typically, in my experience, on both sides of the desk, if we just speak or show visually in bullet points, we don't cover everything. People resonate with the backstory behind the bullet points. And so that's kind of the focus of the book. And it gives examples, part of which I shared already with you today, and a whole bunch of others from different industries and different levels of leadership, and some of my own personal experiences when I was trying to learn how to be a good CEO. And so it was an interesting journey for me to write it. And I'm thrilled that it's going to be published next month, November the 17th. And it will be on every Amazon platform around the world. So I'm excited.
Yeah, the timing of this was so perfect too, as we were talking about what you were doing and having completed the book, and the book was going to release on November the 17th, and our film festival is November the 19th. It's just like we were just meant to collide together. Natalie talks about, and I know you know Natalie as well.
Yeah.
Somebody you introduced to me, she talked about, these strategies, being the helper, being, this insight to helping us to reach that end goal, being able to think and thinking ourselves where we want to be. And as a storyteller, I want to encourage our audience that just because you have an amazing story, you have a funny story, you have more people need to hear it. And the only way you can reach those people is if you understand the I would say schematics, but how to build it, how to set it up, Susan said something very key that I want you to understand. A lot of times as speakers, coaches, we deal with those bullet points. I'm going to tell you this, the 1, 2, 3s. But in order for them to really understand the importance of that, how do you fit into that 1, 2, 3? Where is your story? What is that backdrop? Can you paint that picture quick and in a hurry, and then give them what they need in order for them to go out and to be successful? So that's what you're hearing on today. This amazing. And I love, Susan, when you said the new ROI, return on investment. Is return on influence. How
you're not going to get a return on your investment if you don't influence properly, right?
And that's why I've come up with a lot of people call me the brand master. You can continue to call me the brand master, but also add to that, I am a netfluencer. I'm gonna say that I'm not just a brand master, but
yes, you are.
And Susan, let me tell you, you can't look that up in the dictionary. It's not in the dictionary. I made it up.
Yeah.
So influencer.
Well, it'll make it.
And I gotta build my story around that. Maybe you'll help me with that.
It would be my privilege to do that, my friend.
It's important for us to connect people with people, and then also know, the impact that it makes once we do that, and just really harness and massage these relationships that are coming across our path. So I'm so grateful that you're here with me today. I don't know if you see, at times I get teary-eyed just talking to you, because you just bring such refreshing to my heart and to where I am as a young woman, young CEO. When I say young, I'm young. I don't care what age number I am, I'm still young.
Everybody's young compared to me, Michelle.
Everybody get young. You get young, like Oprah gives away everything. Everybody gets a young day. But I want to say to you that you are a remarkable woman, and I so appreciate your gift and who you are. You told me a story, and so I'm going to impose and see if you would tell this story about, I believe it was your mother in the nursing home, that you had to go and visit your mom at the nursing home, and tell us that story. I want
Miss Etta May, is that the story? Well, my mom was in a retirement center that had various levels of living, and she was in independent living until just the last couple of years of her life. She was 101 when she died.
Yeah.
So, she was around for a long time, and I still go to the phone and think, I got to tell mom this. But anyway, And so I went to visit her as often as I could. She was in California, and they had a new resident. Mom had made friends with her, and she wanted me to meet her. So her name was Miss Etta Mae. And Miss Etta Mae was originally a school teacher in Tennessee in the 1930s. Now, Miss Etta Mae was 9 years old, or 8 years, I forget, older than my mother.
Wow.
And my mom died before Miss Etta Mae. So you just do the math and it's amazing. But she was a lovely, lovely lady, always dressed, she wore slacks on her walks in the morning, but that was it. She dressed for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And she was just a charming, charming woman. So Mom said, you need to talk to her. So I said, okay. So I introduced myself and all of that. And I said, can you tell me a little bit about when you taught? I said, I used to teach, and, maybe we could compare notes or whatever. And she said, like I was anything at all like her. And she says, well, here's the thing that happened. She said, of course, in the 1930s in Tennessee, there were black schools and there were white schools. And she said, I taught at the black school. Well, of course she did. She was black. Mm-hmm. And she said, and me and my colleagues found out that the teachers in the white school made more money than we did. Wow. And we didn't think that was fair. Mm-hmm. I said, well, what happened? She said, we got us a brand spanking new attorney. And she kept saying this, he was such a nice young man. Mm-hmm. And she went on, and they won. They did a class action suit and they won. And he was new. And I said, wow, he must have been really good. I said, do you remember his name? And she said, oh, yes, he was a very nice young man. His name was Thurgood Marshall. And I was like, oh, my gosh, he wasn't a nice young man. He was on the Supreme Court. Come on. I didn't say any of that out loud, but in my brain, I was like, holy crow, And she just, every time I saw her, I flew into the Baltimore, Maryland airport shortly after that, which had been renamed the Thurgood Marshall International Airport. And so they had a display of his life, a photographic display and stuff. And so when I saw her the next time, I told her about it. And I says, I looked to see if your picture or anything in some of the newspaper clippings were there. And she said, oh, no, we didn't take our picture. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, and she said, but that nice young man sure did well by us. And so if anybody's really interested in reading that story, it's on my blog, which is on my website, SusanLukeEvans.com. And I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, see, you are the best storyteller. I've heard the story. I was engaged again, like I was there first time. And it was short. You see what I'm saying? It was, but you gave us the picture, the dress. I know it's a whole lot of, points and its structure that goes behind that, when you're telling a story. But I think that's just so amazing to see it live and in person. So tell us more about you before we go to the film festival. What you have coming up outside of that, book that's coming out.
Man. Well, to be absolutely honest, it's taking up more than my full-time opportunities. And I'm working with the publisher. We're going to have a virtual launch party. Yeah. And it'll be global. So we're excited about that. In fact, I have a planning meeting about that in another couple of days. And so there'll be some giveaways and, all that kind of thing. Sure. And then I continue to work with some of my coaching clients more than anybody else, because of course I can't go anywhere. Sure. And everybody that was a coaching client is not in a position at this time in our society and our world to necessarily do that. So I've got a little bit more time to myself. You couldn't tell it by looking at my house. I need to clean my house. But other than that, I'm staying busy and active, and I'm happy to be able to live right on the the shore of Lake Ontario, right here in Toronto. So I get out and walk and take pictures of the swans and all that kind of stuff. And so that's fun too.
Yeah. Yeah. So guys, connect with Susan on SusanLukeEvans.com. Her website, go to her website. You can connect and learn so much more about her. See her live and in action on her website as well. And not only that, you can meet her at the Real International Film Festival that's coming up November the 19th through the 22nd. We're going to have an amazing, amazing time. And if you are daredevil, you're ready to take this challenge, you're ready to learn more about who she is, you can join us backstage at the Fire Chat with all of our speakers, where you're going to hear a little bit more up close person about who they are, and they don't give you some special nuggets as to what you can do. That is a VIP ticket, but go to RRIFF, let me rephrase that. Go to bit.ly/go Look on the screen. It's going to be on the screen. Get this website that you need to go and join us today. I look forward to seeing you definitely at the Real Film Festival. It's all about learning how to tell your story, knowing that what you have and what you do is why you're here. So understanding that and taking advantage of that, you're not wasting any time. You could do the real ROI by giving the return on investment to the King who has given you life. He's given you everything you need. What is your return that you're going to give back to him just to say thank you? And so with that being said, guys, I'll see you at the next Kingdom Living Today, or I'll see you at the Real International Film Festival. Susan, thank you so much for being my guest on today. Stand by. I got to do a little chatting with you. Stand by 1 second. Bye-bye, guys.
Kingdom View.